Okay, so you're fat. Well, hopefully you're fat if you're watching this video. But anyways, you're probably fat just like I was, right? And you wanted to get jacked. You wanted to have those boulder shoulders, that six-pack. But you've done all the things. You've done everything you can. You've been training right. You've been training hard. You've been eating right, or at least you think you are. You've been tracking your calories and hitting those caloric goals. You've been sleeping 8 to 10 hours. But somehow your fat isn't falling off and there's no muscle running to replace it. If this is you, I'm going to show you how I got kind of jacked in only a year. From around 15 when I started really locking in on these things to now, right? I'm not saying that I'm crazy, but I have a pretty decent and aesthetic physique, especially for my age. So I promise you, when you start locking in on these things, you're going to literally, like, your progress is just going to boom. So without being said, let's get into it. Section 1, diet. Okay, so diet. This is the most important one because the first principle of things, and what first principle basically means is that no matter what, this has to be true in order for you to do that thing. So for example, for math, the first principle of math is that 1 + 1 = 2. If that is not true, nothing else. You can't do calculus if you don't know 1 + 1 = 2. You can't do algebra if you don't know 1 + 1 = 2. So for losing weight, being in a caloric deficit is that first principle. You're simply just not going to lose weight if you're eating above your maintenance. It doesn't matter what food you eat. It doesn't matter how much you're sleeping. It doesn't matter how hard you train. If you're eating above your maintenance, you're simply just not going to You're simply just not going to lose weight. And it's that simple. So there's two ways that you can be in a caloric deficit. You can either do more physical activity, or you can basically just eat less, right? Stop being a fat person, just eat less. Eating less is way easier than doing more. Let's say I ate like the 800 calorie, like kind of like cake Twinkie thing. In order for me to burn 800 calories by like jogging, running, or doing like some sort of workout, it's going to be way harder than me simply not putting that Twinkie or cake in my mouth. I'm not going to act like I'm a saint, right? I'm not going to act like that as soon as I said, okay, I want to lose weight and I really want to lock in on my fitness, that I just immediately just started eating organic foods and all that stuff, or like healthy one ingredient foods. I won't lie, I still ate like my Wingstop, my Chick-fil-A, those unhealthy foods, but eventually I got better, right? And I ate basically better as time went on, right? I didn't beat myself up when I ate that cake or ice cream or cookie. I simply just said, okay, this is a roadblock. Let me go through this, right? You have to understand that it's battles. Every day is a battle between you going to the gym or not, or you eating the healthy foods or not, or you not eating that healthy foods or you do, right? It's always a battle every day. And the more days that you pick the better option, you pick going to the gym, you pick eating that healthy food over the unhealthy food, or not eating the unhealthy food, right? You won that day. You won that battle of the day. And if you can get majority of your week, majority of the days in the week to be with you going to the gym and you doing the right choices, you won that week. And if you win multiple weeks, you win the month. And when you win the months, right, you can win the year. A good year isn't characterized by every year being good. A good year is characterized by having more good years than bad. So all you need for a good year is 7 months. So if you just do the right things, you pick the right things for 7 months, I promise you that's a good year. I promise you that you're going to make progress. It's not about being perfect immediately. It's about winning those battles and getting better at winning those battles each day, each week, and each month. And then that translates into each year, and then each decade, and then to your lifetime. So this will go into kind of like my first tip, which is basically just limit processed food intake. Not only is processed food just wildly unhealthy for you, and it will affect your hormones, which will affect like your testosterone and like how easy you can build muscle and lose fat and all that stuff. Give you brain fog, so you're not training as hard, or like you can't sleep well. All of these things are like important, but also just take the unhealthiness aside. They're just extremely calorically dense, which just means that it's a lot of calories for a small amount of food. And half of these processed foods, and no, I'm not talking about just fast food, right? I'm talking about chips, candy, sodas. everything. When I mean processed foods, I'm putting everything in this category. For example, a quarter pound with cheese meal is 1,500, not 500, my fault, I'm inflating it, 1,050 calories. Look at this. I'm going to show you a picture of this meal and tell me with a straight face that this can fill you up. When it's 1,050 calories, this is not filling up nobody. I don't care who you are, bro. If you were a grown man or like a teenager, this is not filling you up. But it's 1,050 calories, right? It's simply just too calorically dense. I guarantee you, if you eat 1,000 calories of real food, you'll be full until dinner. Because processed food is simply too much calories for how filling it actually is. Because let's say you eat that 1,050 calories of that quarter pounder. I guarantee you're still gonna be hungry. So what you would do is you go snack on an extra 1,000 calories of other bullshit like chips and candy, and then you eat like a pint of ice cream, because those 1,000 calories of chips and candies aren't all that, like, they don't fill you up either. So now you just ate that pint of ice cream, that doesn't even fill you up. But now you ate like 3,500 to 4,000 calories and you're still not filled yet. You see how just having processed food, just snacking and eating processed foods makes you fat, right? It's not even because it's unhealthy, which is like kind of like part of it, but the main reason why is because it's just so little for how much it actually fills you up. So you just end up binging. You just end up going on binges and eating thousands and thousands of calories, which makes you fat, right? So simply just cutting out processed foods, I promise you the fat will fall off. I swear to God, when I started doing this at 15, when I started cutting out processed foods gradually and gradually, I just never got fat because I never just binged, right? I never just ate thousands of calories. I started eating like more one ingredient and more fulfilling foods. In terms of losing weight, being in a caloric deficit is the most important thing you can do. So if you can make it easier for yourself to get into that caloric deficit consistently, then you'll simply just lose weight. So in terms of diet right now, I want you to try to completely cut out all processed foods. But some things, like, most likely you have one processed food that's just so hard to like get rid of. For me, it was sugary drinks like juices and sodas. And how you can cut out said processed foods is by simply just stop buying them. Stop having these processed foods. Stop having like those like boxes and cans of sodas right next to your bed, or the cookies right in the pantry, or like the cakes in the pantry, or the ice cream in the freezer, right? If you just stop buying these like processed foods in your house, because think about this. In order for you to resist these things, it requires willpower. Willpower isn't like discipline. You can't build it up. Willpower is basically resisting the things that you want to do. In this case, eating processed foods is the thing that you want to do. So if you constantly have these things in your house, you have to constantly resist these things, which lowers your willpower, right? And your willpower can only take so much, right? You can only resist these things so much. So then you just end up just eventually, like, your willpower just goes to zero and you're like, just fuck it, I'm just gonna eat it. And when you do this, right, you're just going to go on those binges again. So simply just using your willpower and trying to be like this like crazy like guy that can just go cold turkey like that no matter what, it's just not gonna work, right? What you need to do is you need to preserve your willpower. And how do we do that? By simply just cutting out and throwing away all the cakes, all the cookies, all the ice cream in our house. So when we do go outside, right, and we do see the McDonald's, right, or we do see our favorite ice cream at the supermarket, our willpower is filled up. It's 100%. So now it will be easier to like basically resist those things because our willpower is at its strongest. It doesn't make sense when you want to stop doing something to have it in your like eyesight and have it in like your view at the place that you spend the most time at, which is your house, right? Obviously, you spend time in other places, but your house is what you spend the most time at. So why would you have those things in your house if you're trying to stop doing them? So the first thing to cut out processed foods is basically just throw them out at your house and only use your willpower when you actually need to. When you're outside and you have that craving, it will be way easier when your willpower is at 100% to resist that McDonald's down the street or resist that like buying that ice cream. Then when it's like at 20% when you're at the supermarket, you're more likely to get it if it's already in your house, right? And that would just create a downward spiral that we don't want. So basically, I'm just going to repeat this again because this is very important. In order to cut out processed foods, stop buying processed foods, and whatever processed foods you have in your house, throw them out now. Like right now. Not right now. Watch the video first. But after the video, throw out all the processed foods that you have right now. This, I feel like, in terms of diet, is the most important. You don't necessarily have to eat the healthiest of foods, the most organic grass-fed red meat, or raw lamb liver, or all of this stuff, right? You don't have to eat the most healthy things for you. Although these things would be ideal, you don't necessarily have to stress about how healthy the food you're eating really is. Stress about how unhealthy it is, right? Because think about it like this. I know this makes no sense, but I'm gonna explain it. You go on like Instagram or YouTube or whatever, there's countless people telling you that one thing is healthy, and then another person telling you that thing isn't healthy, or this thing is healthy, that's not healthy, no it's not. You have all these different things, right? Don't eat carbs, go on the carnivore, keto, all these stuff. You have all these diets, you have all these people telling you what's healthy and what's not. But what we know for an objective fact is that processed foods like ice cream, pizzas, all these other stuff are unhealthy. Because if you're not eating those processed foods, you'll naturally just become healthier. Then you can start worrying about, okay, what foods are good for me, what foods are actually the healthiest for me. But for now, in the starting stages, don't worry about getting that organic grass-fed ground beef. Just worry about just not putting that cake or Twinkie in your mouth. You're not even on like that stage yet to be worrying about like the actual like organic and healthy stuff, right? You're at the stage where you simply just have to stop putting a cake in your mouth or stop drinking that soda. After you just stop trying to put like those cakes and like, you know, Twinkies in your mouth, right? Once you master that, then start trying to like, you know, focus on getting healthier. And a good way to start eating healthier is to try and incorporate more one ingredient foods, right, into your diet, such as potatoes, blackberries, beef. These things have no other ingredients but potatoes, blackberries, and beef, right? A blackberry, you can't go on the ingredients list and see like 5,000 ingredients of a blackberry, right? It's simply just a blackberry. So while you're limiting processed food, try to incorporate more one ingredient foods into your diet. You can see if something is one ingredient. I just kind of told you this, but like if it doesn't have like a big ingredients list, or it doesn't have any ingredients list at all. If it doesn't have any ingredients list, it just means that that thing is the ingredient, right? That thing, the potato, is the ingredient. There's nothing else added to it, right? Which is important because that means it's not processed. To see if something is unhealthy, it can be either you have like a big, like a giant ingredient list. I'm talking about like 30 like ingredients, right? But also, right, if there's just things that you can't pronounce, like deoxyribophosphate, if there's things that you don't even know existed before reading the ingredients list, or you just can't pronounce, high chance that it's not healthy for you. So the tip that I have for you to start eating healthier is try to go to the supermarket with your mom, right? Try to like be like an active part of like kind of like the supermarket process of your mom buying foods and stuff. And start looking at the ingredients list, right? Maybe like you just go shop with your mom, say, oh mom, I want to shop with you, right? And then just start looking at the ingredients list, telling her, oh, I want this because this is healthier, right? You see the ingredients list, just make it a habit to start going like shopping with your mom or your dad or your parents, whoever you go shopping, or if you're by yourself, just when you're shopping, just look at that ingredients list, right? And actively like shop for food instead of just like, you know, just mindlessly shopping for it. Just, oh, this is what I usually get, let me get it. Instead of doing that, pick it up, look at the ingredients list and think, okay, are those things I know exist, right? Or those things that I can pronounce? Does it have a small ingredients list? If it checks off all those boxes, boom, put it in there. The next thing I did was I started fasting. Now, think about it. When you're trying to lose weight, this kind of makes a lot of sense. If you fast more, you'll be more likely to, you know, eat less because you're literally setting up a time where you don't eat, meaning no calories, right? Me personally, I believe breakfast is a scam. Because just think about it, when we were like kind of like hunter-gatherers, and the reason why I'm using hunter-gatherers is because this shows our true nature, right? What we naturally just did. When we were hunter-gatherers, we had no food in the morning. Just freshly starting off, we were just naturally fasted until we caught something, which wouldn't be like a couple hours later or like, you know, a couple hours, not later, well, yeah, a couple hours like after or later, after we just woke up, like 4 or 5 hours. So like at most, we'll eat our first meal probably like late morning, like 11 a.m. to like 12 p.m. at noon, or even sometimes just in the evening, right? But basically, the thing I'm trying to get at is when we were hunter-gatherers, our natural instinct was that we were fasted. We didn't eat an hour or two, like, once we woke up. We didn't eat immediately, right? There was a time or, like, a window between when we woke up to when we eat, and it was pretty big, maybe 4 to 5 hours. I eat lunch at, like, around 11 a.m., and I eat my last meal at, like, 8 to 9 p.m. But when I did do this, it was much more strict. It was like, okay, I had my first meal at 1 p.m. and then my last meal at like 7 p.m., right? And I wouldn't eat until then. So now I'm kind of like more like, I'm not doing it as much as I was doing it like when I was 15. So basically it's like a 14 to 15 hour fast now. But usually, like, when I was locking in at 15, like a year ago, I would do an 18 to 6 intermittent fasting, which basically I would fast for 18 hours, so I wouldn't eat for 18 hours. Then I have a window of like 6 hours where I will eat until I reach my caloric goal. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I never really tracked my calories. Like, I couldn't tell you how much calories I ate on a daily basis because I never really tracked them. I never saw it like important to track them. But what I basically, all I really did to lose weight, right, is I just lowered my serving sizes. So let's say like my mom made like rice and chicken. Like, maybe like I would have like 100 grams of rice and 4 chicken legs usually. But when I was like trying to lose weight, I would simply just cut that serving size. So instead of 100 grams of rice, I'll eat like 75 grams of rice. And then instead of 4 chicken legs, I'll eat 2 chicken legs. Now, I couldn't tell you the exact calories that was, but I could tell you that it's gonna be less calories because it's less food. So basically, if you don't like that process of like tracking your food and all that stuff, simply all you have to do is just lower your serving sizes. Whatever you usually eat, like basically lower it to like 25% or like even 50%, right? It depends how big it is.
Pause.
So if you have like, let's say you eat like for dinner, right? Your mom made like some like steak and rice, right? And you would usually get like 150 grams of like rice and like 2 steaks. Just lower that 150 grams to like 110 grams and then only have 1 steak. Obviously, you can't tell how much calories that is, but what you do know for an objective fact is that it's less food, and less food equals basically less calories, meaning that you're just going to eat less calories in general, right? Just objectively. But anyways, back to fasting. Got on like a little side tangent there. But look, you can either do a 14 to 10 fast. After this, right, it's basically not even fasting anymore, right? So basically you eat 14 hours of, like, not 14, you fast 14 hours, so you don't eat for 14 hours. And then you have like a 10-hour window where you can eat whatever you want to get that caloric goal. Not whatever you want, but you eat to get that caloric goal. Or you can do OMAD, or 1 meal a day, which is the highest you can do, which you fast for 23 hours, then you have like a 1 hour in like window to eat 1 meal, which is super big. Like, it has everything that you need in it. Now, there's no best style of fasting, although most people like they prefer the 16 to 8, right, or the 18 to 6. Those are the most like kind of popular. But there's no best style. It all depends on what you prefer. Do you prefer like bigger eating windows, which means that you can eat more meals, but those meals have to be smaller? Or do you prefer like smaller eating windows where you have less meals, but those meals will be bigger? So it just depends. Would you rather have less meals, but they be bigger, or more meals, but they'll be smaller? So as far as diet goes, limit and cut out processed like junk. Replace it with healthier foods. And they don't gotta be like the healthiest like foods in the world, but simply just healthier by looking at the ingredients list. More ingredients that have complicated names that you never heard of or can't pronounce equals bad. And simpler ingredients that you know, like it's just water, flour, eggs, like you know what water, flour, eggs is, right? And that's all it has. Those are good as well. Or it's just one ingredient food, like it's just that thing, right? It's just the potato, it's just the blackberry, it's just the beef, right? That means that it's good and that you should buy that over the thing that has 30 ingredients that has things that you can't pronounce. Also, tracking calories isn't a requirement. You can just simply lower your usual serving sizes to eat less calories. And finally, fasting can be a great tool to losing weight, right? 14 to 10 to OMAD is like kind of like your range, right? And the bigger your feeding window is, the more meals you can have, but the smaller they'll usually be. And the smaller your eating window is, the less meals you can have, but the bigger those meals would be. Section 2, exercise. Exercise? I thought you said extra fries.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for that. I was clip farming, my fault. Anyways, exercise is the most important for like building muscle in terms of like building the muscle, right? Diet is more important for shaving off that fat, but training and exercise is the best for building muscle. What we don't want is that after we lose all our fat, just to be a stick. We don't want to look like skinny after we lose that fat, right? So we have to train hard. I feel like that the best way to train is doing a martial art, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, kickboxing. For me personally, I do boxing, right? But you can do like whatever like martial art you want, right? Jiu-jitsu guys are pretty jacked. I've seen a lot of them. Pair that with calisthenics, weighted calisthenics, of course, right? So weighted dips, weighted pull-ups, all that stuff with a little bit of weights. That sounds like a lot of training, but I promise you, once I explain it, it's not gonna be a lot. This is my personal favorite way to train, right? I'm not telling you to do a martial art. Like, if you don't want to do a martial art, you don't have to do a martial art, right? If you don't want to do calisthenics, you just want to weightlift, then that's fine. But for me, this is what worked for me, so I'm going to, like, basically tell you it. I'm just saying doing a martial art will shave that fat off and build muscle. And I'm first experienced. When I started boxing, like, a year and a half ago, I just naturally like everything just started to shave off, right? Because boxing is very like cardio specific, right? You burn a lot of calories from doing it because you're doing a lot of high circuit, like high intensity training, right? You hit the pads for like, you know, a couple of minutes and then like you rest for 30 seconds, then you're back in it, right? It's intense, right? It's very intense. You're burning a lot of calories. So naturally that fat is just gonna shave off, right? And that's what happened to me. And although like some people say that martial arts can't like build you like muscle because a lot of guys are skinny, trust me, when you're new to it, you're going to build muscle. I promise you. First, I'm gonna start with people that want to do like a martial arts, right? And then people that don't. So if you don't, and I'm not gonna waste your time here, if you don't like want to do a martial art, I'm not gonna let you like hear me yap about something that you're never gonna do. So just skip to here if you don't want to do a martial art. But if you do want to do a martial art, stay here. So if you stay here, all of this is for you. So first, we must understand the most important rule when it comes to balancing martial arts with calisthenics and weight training, right? And this hit me hard because the number one thing is that you're gonna do martial arts. Like when you do martial arts, you can't train, like you can't like lift weights and do calisthenics every day. I mean, you can, but then one of those sessions will suffer. If you do like calisthenics and all that stuff every day, right, your martial arts sessions will suffer because you're gonna be sore and you're not gonna properly recover. You'll be overtraining yourself. You're just gonna always be sore, which will basically like lower your performance in the martial arts. If you're always doing martial arts and you're not prioritizing calisthenics and weightlifting, when you do the calisthenics and weightlifting, since you did like intense workouts every martial arts session, then like basically you're just not gonna have a good calisthenics like session, right? And I learned this the hard way. When I was like, I focused too much on one at the same time, right? I focused on too much of boxing at one point and too much at calisthenics and weightlifting. And both of these, like when you focus on like too much over the other, that one that you're not focusing on diminishes, right? So you have to find like a balance between them in terms of volume and intensity, right? Once you find that balance between them, you're never gonna overtrain in your life again. Like my best advice in terms of volume, and this works for me, you can use this as a benchmark and see if it works for you. But what I do is 4 days out of the week, I train calisthenics and weightlift. And then 5 days of the week, I train my martial art, which is boxing. There's some days that they overlap, right? So basically, I have to find a split that kind of like has good intensity, but also has low volume, right? So I can do both at the same time without really overtraining. So what would be the best split for you? Since you have less days to work, right, you're gonna have to hit more body groups. At first, I was doing push-pull legs, right? Because, you know, that's like kind of like the bro split. Not the bro split, but it's kind of like the most popular split. So I was like, okay, let me try push-pull legs, right? But the thing is, I couldn't hit every muscle group 2 times a week without frying myself, right? Because then I would have to work, like I have to do my martial arts 5 days out of the week, and then I have to do like push-pull legs 6 days, right? So I have to do 6 days, because in order for push-pull legs to work, you have to do 6 days, because you have to hit like the muscle group 2 times a week in order to actually have like muscle growth, like be promoted, right? So simply push-pull legs couldn't work for me, because in order for me to like basically actually do push-pull legs properly, I would have to like overtrain myself, and we don't want to overtrain ourselves. So then I went on to full body, right? Because full body, you can hit like the muscle groups every week, 2 times a week, even 3 times a week, right? It was cool. But like, since you have to hit every single muscle group, and let's be honest, hitting every single muscle group takes a long time to do, and also a long time to heal. 3 days on average it took me to heal, right? There's some hard muscle groups that you have to train, like back and legs, right? Imagine you hit legs first. Mentally, you're drained, you're cooked, but you still got like 6 other exercises to do for chest, back, biceps, shoulders, and everything in between. But you're simply just not going to have that same intensity, and vice versa. Doing legs after, again, you won't have the same intensity, right? You might not be mentally drained, but like physically, you kind of be drained, right? And you're kind of like, I don't want to really do this anymore. So the problem with full body is it's simply just too much volume in one day in order to like get that intensity in check, right? So what else is there? What other split is there? Push-pull legs don't work. The bro split is definitely not gonna work, right? Like full body won't work. So what is gonna work? What can I do? So me personally, what I found to be the best split, right, that balance everything, is basically upper and lower split. So it's kind of like full body, but you split it into 2 days, where one day you train out and work out every body part that's considered upper. So from traps to lower back would be considered upper. So basically you'll be doing chest, triceps, like back, right? That includes the upper, middle, and all that stuff, right? Biceps and shoulders all in one. Now, you might be thinking, and also I thought too, that this is still way too much, right? And it will take way too long to recover and do with intensity. But trust me, if you do it right, it's the best. When you do upper body, you should have 1 to 2 exercises, right? You shouldn't have anything more than that. 1 to 2 exercises for every like specific muscle group, right? If you go over that kind of like range, then you'll be overtraining, then you'll be doing too much. So pick 1 to 2 exercises every session for like a specific muscle group, right? So we have chest, bicep, triceps, back, shoulders. So every upper body session, you have 1 to 2 exercises for chest, 1 to 2 for biceps, 1 to 2 for triceps, 1 to 2 for back, 1 to 2 for shoulders. So you have around 5 to 10 exercises, give or take, for one session. Now, a tip I have is focus on compounds. For example, dips hit front delts, the low chest and triceps. Like doing dips in itself counts as one exercise, right? Dips is just one exercise, but it's also one exercise for chest, 1 for shoulders, and 1 for triceps, right? Not only would this just make your workouts faster, right? Since you're hitting like, it's kind of like a 3-for-1 deal, right? You're hitting like 3 muscle groups for one exercise. They can give you the most growth. Now, isolations, right? Isolations can be good sometimes for certain muscle groups, right? Specifically so groups that don't get hit well in most exercise, such as like the upper chest. You need an isolation exercise for upper chest, because if you don't, you're not going to hit it. So your 2 chest exercises and tricep exercises can be basically dips and then the incline, right? And then you had 2 chest exercises, 2 tricep exercises, and 1 shoulder exercise off 2 exercises. You see how this works, right? You see how I'm getting at. You see how like now you can like kind of like increase intensity and kind of like balance these things, because it's so easy to actually hit every muscle group when you do an upper body split like right. When you do it right, correctly, it's very easy, and it's not gonna like basically make you overtrain. Another thing to justify kind of like isolations is if you have a stubborn muscle group. Like if like a certain part of your like body, like a certain like muscle group just doesn't grow well, right? So you need that isolation, like that extra work to really fry it so it can grow. For me, that's biceps, right? My triceps, they're good, so I don't add isolations, right? My shoulders, they're good, so I don't add isolations. But biceps, even when I'm doing the pull-ups and rows and even chin-ups, right, they're kind of stubborn. So I have to do like some sort of like isolation movement to really fry them. So for me, since my stubborn muscle group is biceps, I add isolation. But if my biceps were like growing fine, right, there's no reason to add like a bicep curl if your biceps are growing fine. Unless you have a stubborn muscle group or that muscle group doesn't get targeted well in most exercises, like you shouldn't be adding isolations. Because think about it, when you add isolations, even when your back is fried, you're going to overtrain. Let's say you do weighted pull-ups, right? And then you do like rows. Your back is fried. It's already fried. It's sore, right? Like everything, you just squeezed everything out of it. Why in God's green earth are you going to do another variation of a pull-up in a lat pull-down or another row, right? There's no point. You already fried it, right? You already fried your back. There's no point of doing an extra exercise, right? And again, this works for legs too. So for lower, you have 1 to 2 exercises for quads and 1 to 2 for hamstrings. And that's your lower body. Lower body takes like this. It's very quick and simple. Maybe you do like squats and then RDLs and you're out of there. That can literally be your workout, right? If you do 2 quality sets of squats and 2 quality sets of hamstrings, your legs can be fried just like that. Now, the beauty of this split is since it cycles 2 times a week, you can hit and target and isolate different parts of your body. Let's say for first upper body session for shoulders, you hit side delts and front delts, right? You do shoulder press and lateral raises. For your second upper body, what you do for shoulders is rear delts and side delts instead of like front delts, right? So instead of like that shoulder press, you do rear delt flies paired with the lateral raises. Maybe for chest, the first upper body session you did dips. So for next upper body session, you can do barbell bench press, right? And basically you can play around with different exercise variations. You can pick, my goal is to just, not my goal, but my tip is to pick 2 to 4 of your favorite chest, back, shoulder, triceps, biceps, like quads, hamstring exercises, then cycle between those throughout the week. And then when they get stale, right, and you're in a plateau and you're not really like progressing, you can change some. Now for intensity, I don't care the most optimal rep range. Go to failure 2 times on those heavy lifts, so rows, pull-ups, dips, and like heavy lifts and compounds, right? You go 2 times to failure. And for isolations, right, if you have isolations in your programs, you can do reps of like 12 to 20, like in that range, right, for 2 to 3 sets. But for compounds in those high ROI heavier lifts, have 2 warm-up sets, right? Now you're warmed up, that back is warmed, those shoulders are warmed up, right? Chest warmed up, everything's warmed up. Now you just crush like those like 2 sets to failure. You just crush them. Like you should be grunting. You should kind of be like a maniac when you're training, right? You should like be sweating. You should like teeth grinding, trying to get that last rep. Like you're giving everything you got into each of those failure sets, right? Those warm-up sets are just lolly-dotty-da, right? Those warm-up sets on the rows are just lolly-dotty-da, right? Warm up like 5 to 10 reps, just, you know, weight that you can handle, boom, 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 warm that up. But those failure sets, right, you should be grunting for those last reps, really stretching out those last reps and grunting, and like you like your eyes should be popping out, like you should be like, not like that, but like you should be like you should really be struggling on those two sets if you really want to build muscle, right? Because this isn't like a bodybuilder like kind of plan, right? Like the reps, like the cute reps, right? You're really trying to like die, right? This is how like you should train. You should train with trying to die. Like you should be lightheaded sometimes when you're training, right? You have to be like that intense sometimes, right? And it might seem like a lot of intensity, but since you're only doing 2 like real working sets, you can recover in like 1 to 2 days, right? 1 to 2 days you can recover easily. So once you're able to reach failure like in that 12 to like 20 rep range, right? Increase that weight. And once you can like, you know, reach failure in that 12 to 20 rep range again, then you increase the weight again, right? And you just keep on doing it. And that's how you progressively overload in kind of like a program like that. And if you're interested, I actually like put my workout plan, like the upper lower split that I do like currently right now, in like a Google form. So after this video, if you're interested and you need like like some like kind of like inspiration on how to structure your program or what exercises you need to do, you can actually check that out on the Google form, and you can like look at it if you're interested, right? But anyways, this is all you have to do, right? Everything that I got like showed you is what I do, and I got a pretty decent physique. So trust me, when you do everything right, when you train correctly, you can balance both of these things. Hi, if you skipped here, that means that you don't want to do martial arts, right? And if you did like watch the martial arts session, skip here for like recovery, right? So in that case, since you don't want to do martial arts, the best like push for you or like split for you is PPL, so push pull legs, right? Since you don't have like a martial art that like interferes with recovery, you can train in the gym in calisthenics way more. People like, cause PPL will allow you to hit every muscle group 2 times a week efficiently, right? And hitting a muscle group 2 times a week is kind of like that minimum that you have to hit a muscle group in order for it to really grow. So push basically means chest and triceps. So you pick 2 to 3 exercises for each muscle group. Do compounds first, right? Always do compounds first, no matter what. So for example, you do bench press first, right? That's a compound. Chest and triceps, right? And then you do incline dumbbell press for that upper chest, right? And then you do tricep extensions, right? For like that isolation of the tricep, and then like any other chest and tricep exercise after that. Pull means back and biceps. Again, you start with the heavy lifts and big compounds, right? So like rows and weighted pull-ups. And then after your compounds are done, maybe you do lat prayers and like bicep curls, right? And the rest of those back and bicep like workout. Legs is just legs again, right? So 2 to 3 exercises each muscle group, right? Again, nothing changes for the most part. Compounds first, like squats and deadlifts and RDLs, right? And then your isos, like the leg extension and like lying hamstring curls. Also in like the legs part, you can also add like shoulders, right? So again, 2 to 3 exercises, right? Shoulder press, lateral raises, rear delt flies. But just the rule that you need to remember is like basically compounds first, isos like last, right? Compounds first, isos last, right? That's all you have to remember, really. It doesn't really matter what like exercises you choose, right? Although some exercises do give you like better like bang for your buck, right? But basically just start with the compounds first, those heavy lifts. You basically fried your back the majority of the way, and then those isos are for the extra 15 or 10%. Since you have more training frequency, you don't have to go intense. You don't have to go to failure every set. But some sets here and there, you take it to failure. I say the easiest and probably best way is to do exercises between that 6 to 20 rep range. And now if you hit failure between those rep ranges, right, that means the weight is good, right? If you hit like failure between like that 6 to 20 rep range, failure, it's good. The weight is good for you, right? But if you do more than 20 reps and you're still not at failure, that means the weight isn't like, it's too light for you, right? And if you go below 6, right, if you hit failure at like rep 3 or 4, that means the weight is way too heavy for you, right? So you have to lower the weight. And you can use this kind of like rep range as a starting point to construct your program. I would say the must-haves are rows, squats, RDLs, pull-ups, dips, bench, in my opinion, right? But just see how you feel when you do like other exercises, right? It's all about experimentation, finding what you like the most and feels the best to you. Because basically, the more you like it, the more you're going to be consistent in that thing. I mean, you get results. So there's not like a magic exercise, right? The magic exercise is what you like the most because it's the one that you're going to do the most and going to progress in the most, meaning that you're going to make the most progress, right? I'm just saying those are the best because those are for me, right? Those are the ones that work the best for me. There's no best shoulder, best chest. It's just the one that you like the most. Section 3, recovery. Fuck foam rolling, fuck ice baths, all that stuff. The best recovery is eating enough and sleeping enough. Getting 6 to 9 hours of quality sleep. Depending from person to person, some need more and are on the higher range, and some need less and are on the lower range, right? For me, I don't really need that much sleep. Like 7 hours and I'm good. Just eating healthier, less processed foods, and eating enough of those healthier foods are very important as well. And that's literally all you really have to do for recovery. You don't have to do foam rolling, the sauna, like cold plunge, all those things can work. The most important things that you need to do, right, is just eat good, eat enough of that good stuff, and sleep good. And that's literally everything. All that other stuff is just supplements to the actual 80%. Those are the 80%, and you should focus on those. I just want to add that I have free one-on-one coaching calls where I help young guys lost in their journey of self-improvement gain clarity and knowledge on how to actually start progressing in their goals without the uncertainty on whether they'll achieve their goal or overcome their roadblocks. So again, it's free. You just book the one-on-one call and we can just talk about whatever you feel like is stopping you from making progress and finally like accelerating. So if you're interested, links in the description below. Like this video, right? I wish you luck on your journey and peace.